I came to the UK and I found that people in the West are actually quite, I don't want to say depressed to just throw out that term, but I want to say also not lost, because that kind of feels a bit pompous of me to say that someone's lost. Go ahead.
Disconnected?
Kind of, yes. And just not, they just kind of flow and they're really unhappy, I feel, but they don't want to show that in a way. So it's,
yeah,
you know, if you think about life, you can do anything you want, and in the developed world you can do anything you want times 10, you know, compared to what you can do in developing and undeveloped countries. So that I was like, I'm gonna come to the UK, and then people are gonna be thrilled every day, and I come and they're not, and I'm like, what the hell? So to me, I was thinking like,
sorry about that.
This that's right. No, it's not just UK, by the way. It's the US. Just in the West, this is not how I pictured, sort of Western developed world.
Yeah.
In terms of, obviously the infrastructure and like the roads and all that stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
But just in terms of the way people feel.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like technology is only gonna make it worse, and I see it already making it worse because people are just drifting by.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I applaud, everything that you've just said. I mean, with regret. But it's like, look, here's the thing. You and I met at some event, right?
Yes.
And what did we do? We sat down and we started talking. And we got straight away into interesting conversation, because that's what matters to you and myself. It's very clear to me that you are a extremely sharp, extremely intelligent young man, and you're searching for answers. That's how you come across to me. And it's very clear that certain things matter to you. In particular, you mentioned your sister, and it's like, wow, it's just fantastic. So why am I in Spain? I'm in Spain because the culture here is different. The culture here, it seems to me, is less inclined towards technology. I'm not saying people don't have smartphones or whatever, of course they do. But some of the distinctions for me, for instance, is that when I walk around a supermarket in Spain, it's very quiet, it's very calm. You see children who are engaged with their parents, and, for the most part, I don't think I've ever heard any whining child in Spain. I think there's a difference in terms of when you have sunshine, when you know the outdoors, when you know that is guaranteed for 6-7 months of the year. People can express themselves in a different way. I think with all the sunshine, they have more dopamine and serotonin. I think they're more relaxed within themselves. But family is what is at the core. Now, you look at the UK and you look at the USA, but also you look at the educational models and you look at the economic model. I've talked about this for years, is that one of the things that I find an absolute tragedy. So you look at the UK, we've got thousands of years of divide and rule. We've got thousands of years of having a system whereby you have somebody at the top, then you have the people that are underneath them, whether that was the king, and then the barons and the lords, or whatever way it went. But everybody got what they got because they could, fight and kill more people than anybody else. And then the person at the bottom got their little strip of land and was told to be grateful for that. Oh, and by the way, with the pittance that you got on Sunday, go and give 20% to the church. So it's like, and in the UK, the culture has very much been, who do you think you are? We've got a class system, which it works in the way that it does, but it's also hugely restrictive. And so you've then got an economic model which is based on an employee mentality. And this, to me, this is what I wrote about in the book as well, is that for 300 years, when cottage industries stopped and people started to create factories, then people got into the whole monotony. And the deal was, okay, I'll work for you, and you will give me the security of a pay packet. And you'll do the selling, or you'll do the marketing or whatever, but I'll make this cloth and you'll buy it off me, guaranteed. So that was the deal. And when you've then got an education system which is geared towards creating good employees, and yes, I'm massively generalizing, but what you want from a good employee is somebody who, to a degree, will agree to hand over the bulk of their life in return for what I regard to be pretty much a pittance. So you're then absolutely bought into this whole thing of Monday to Friday for the bulk of people. You know exactly what's going to happen. You're going to do your job. It would be lovely to think that people enjoy their work, but here's the other shocking thing about it, and this absolutely plugs into what you're talking about. And that is that, so for a start, if you imagine from childhood, from about the age of 11, the way I see it is that one of the things which is absolutely knocked out of people is imagination and dreaming. So, by the time a child becomes a kind of young boy or girl, 10 or 11 years old, we've been told something like 120,000 times positive conversations or positive comments, and we've had about 1,100,000 negative comments, right? Now that has an impact. You're then also told to stop dreaming, because you've got to grow up. Now dreaming is the absolute access point of creativity, wonderment, potential, and all this kind of stuff. This isn't me saying this is Albert Einstein. And what we tend to do is that we go, no, you've got to do maths, you've got to do this, you've got to learn this structure in this period of time, then you've got to spew it out in an exam or whatever. It's got nothing to do with intelligence at all. Our own abilities are breathtaking, but the education system knocks it out of us, and this isn't a conspiracy thing, it's worked. But it knocks it out of us in order that we can become subjective employees. Our parents would have earned a certain income stream, so would their parents. There'd be an assumption that we would too. If you're set to earn £30,000 a year, you're not going to dream. You're not going to dream about having extraordinary experiences or blah, 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 blah. You're going to be thinking constantly, how can I eke out my existence on 30,000 a year or 25,000? I think 26,000 is still the national average in the UK, which is crazy. So you have to depress your imagination in order to exist in that. And so people go, well, that's just how life is, because that's what they have been taught. Yeah. What's exciting about this upcoming, I think it's evolution and revolution, is that more and more people are going, well, A, this sucks because it's going to get worse. We'll come on to that maybe later. But in terms of the job losses which have been anticipated and predicted by the likes of President Barack Obama, as was, and also Mark Carney, the governor of the Bank of England, but also the OECD, and certain individuals, Jack Ma, the owner of Alibaba, they're talking about, up to 1 billion jobs going. And they're talking about that within 12 years. Yeah. Now, that's why I wrote the book. Because it's like, guys, even if you slash that by 50%, that is major. That is major. But more importantly, it heralds the arrival of a new way of having to be. Society, if this is true, is going to have to change and adapt, and it's going to have to do it fast. But coming back to the current employee situation, I read a few items in a book that was all about depression. This guy was talking about how come if you give somebody citalopram or whatever, which should create more serotonin in the brain, then people go back to being depressed. And he talked about purpose. And he talked about the fact that in the UK, one of the biggest surveys that was ever done in 2011, 2012 by Mori was on people who go to work. And I can't remember the stats exactly, but it was something like 17% of people positively enjoy going to work. It's something that they are fulfilled by. It's something that they love contributing towards. It's meaningful to them. Something like 65% of people just get through the day. It's a filler. It's a means to an end.
Do you think, just to pick up on that, with those 17%,
yeah,
is that true? Because to me, when you ask a person, do you love your job? When that person says yes, I think in terms of the social circle, they're considered as someone who's winning even more. Because you have a good job and you love it. So that, I think to me, even in those 17%, I'm not sure if everyone was being truthful with themselves. What do you think?
Maybe. I don't know. 17%, I can go with 17%. To be honest, I could go with 20%. But, but the shock. This comes back to what you were talking about in terms of people being depressed. My words is that something like 25 or 26% of people actively hate their job. Now, if you're spending the bulk of your life doing something...
So 17 love it, 65 kind of get on with it, and then...
For 65%, it's like a filler. It's a means to an end. But, you know, they're not engaged with it. But about around 25% actively hate it.
Wow.
So the whole conversation around this was what this guy was talking about in terms of depression. He said, you know, the fact is that you can give people as much citalopram as you like. But if, at the end of the day, there is no purpose, there's no sense of meaning behind what you do, then at best you're going to be ambivalent. But at worst, you're going to be, you know, seriously unhappy and unwell, you know, from a mental perspective. And that, I think, comes in with what you're talking about, because the whole Western model of so-called success is one which goes, well, if you do this and this and this and this and this, and you have this and you get more of this and blah, 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 it's like, you know, that's the definition of success. And it's bullshit. That is an addiction kind of scenario that you're creating, which is why people will always go and get the latest iPhone or the latest TV or the latest this or the latest that or the latest the other, because they've attached it to an external set of circumstances, i.e. society, that says you have X, Y, and Z and you are a success. But most people in that sense are utterly miserable because it doesn't mean anything to them. And from a heartfelt perspective, it's empty.